Palestinians in Gaza heaved a sigh of relief as they awoke to the first hour of a 4-day truce between Israeli forces and Hamas. It's the first pause in Israel's deadly siege in the Palestinian enclave since Hamas's surprise assault on October 7th. The first group of hostages and prisoners are expected to be released in a few hours at 1400 GMT. Sam Mednick from the Associated Press in Jerusalem and our correspondent Noor Harazeen in Gaza give us the latest from the ground.
There were explosion sounds heard right up until this truce began, as well as overnight. And about 20 minutes into the truce, there was an alert by Israel's army saying that there were potential air strikes near some cities in Gaza. But it is too soon to know right now if it's holding. If it does hold, this would be the biggest breakthrough since the start of this war. And there are many families right now who are cautiously optimistic and hoping that it does go through. The first batch of hostages are expected to be free. The names of these hostages, as well as the Palestinians on the other side, were released yesterday. The families of the hostages are aware of who is going to be released. And in general, there are going to be 50 hostages on Israel's side exchanged for 150 Palestinian prisoners. The majority, all of them right now, are women and minors. There is the potential for the ceasefire to extend. There's 4 days right now of ceasefire, but there's a potential for it to continue with 10 additional hostages being released each day if there is no fighting. Hostage negotiators say that ideally they want to try and get all of the civilian hostages out, and that maybe that could bring them to 8 or 9 days of a truce, but it still really depends on how these first few days go. There's also going to be no fighting in the south of Gaza. There's going to be no airplanes over the south of Gaza, and there's going to be 6 hours a day where there are no planes over the north of Gaza. Part of this deal also does include humanitarian assistance coming into Gaza, which would be a great reprieve, at least in small part, because the humanitarian situation is so dire.
Well, over the past days, Hamas was intensively negotiating with Israel through Egypt, Qatar, and the United States to finally reach this humanitarian truce. Of course, Hamas and its leaders, they want the people here in Gaza, the civilians, to at least take a break after 7 weeks of very intense Israeli war on the coastal enclave. This is the first day in 7 weeks where we wake up without the sounds of the Israeli drones and the Israeli warplanes. Some of the people actually who fled their homes are now taking the Salah ad-Din road, walking on their feet to go back to their homes and check what happened and try to get some of their belongings. However, we are getting some news from northern Gaza that the Israeli tanks are banning some Palestinians from entering their areas and their neighborhoods, especially the neighborhoods where there is an Israeli tanks and where there is an Israeli land incursion. The system in all hospitals around Gaza has collapsed weeks ago. And also tonight, overnight, and this early hours of the morning before 7 a.m., actually the Israeli forces pounded the Indonesian hospital with dozens of airstrikes. But at the same time, people and medical staff are hopeful that this truce will somehow ease in the situation.